year, connecting to clouds of, thank you very much, Noah. And this information session, I do have slides, and we do have 2 wonderful advisory group members whom I'll introduce in a minute. But if you have questions, please just ask them over the chat or ask them directly. There's not all that many of us on screen today. So if you have any questions at all, or you've got, things you want to comment about or whatever, please just let me know in some form. So, because we'd like to make sure that all your questions and, concerns and issues are actually raised and dealt with. That would be great. Okay, so the Strategic People Program. This program has actually had many iterations. And in fact, Mike Sweet, who is online today, did, I think, this sort of, I can never remember this first or the second program, but the initial iteration was a GMHR program, and it has evolved over the years. I think we've finally settled on the Strategic People Program as a suitable name for it. It's not just for HR people, it's for a range of people who have different kinds of perspectives from organisation, but are vitally interested in how to get the best out of people, how to lead people effectively, and maybe responsible for people strategy or culture and development of their people. So the first question would be, why would you do this? Basically, the focus of our programs in the C-suite, and some of you may have looked into our website, is basically to take people from technical expertise and technical leadership into more strategic leadership in preparation for the C-suite or strategic roles in your company or somewhere else. So we put a focus on and I'll show you in a minute the kinds of topics we'll be dealing with, but we look at people in organisations from a strategic perspective. A key thing about these programs is that they are a wonderful way to expand your network. So you'll have the ability to see and spend quite a bit of time with your cohort in the program itself. But we also run the other C-suite programs at the same time, not all of the programs, but you will be doing, if you choose to do this program, you will be doing combined sessions with CIOs and the supply chain people. So it gives you a much better sense of, what are those other people thinking about? What's important to them? How do we actually work together better across the organisation to get things done and to have high performance in our organisations in the first place? There's also about another 250 C-suite alumni, and you'll be able to engage with those people. Plus, there's wonderful advisory group members who are senior leaders in the various different disciplines and realms that you will have access to as well. The way that we work in these programs, which have been going on for the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, is that we bring intellectual rigour of our academics in these various different areas, along with best practices, best current practices, innovations, some challenging, sorts of ideas and disruptive sort of views about things, and we bring those two together. So there's an opportunity to kind of look at some different sorts of things and also deal with some issues that you might find gnarly and difficult, but pretty much most people in the kinds of roles that you're in will be dealing with as well or have dealt with. So you can learn quicker. Basically, we don't want people to reinventing wheels if we can possibly avoid it. So the thing is to connect you with people who are actually have done those things or are dealing with the similar issues to you. It's an opportunity to gain confidence in the areas where you may feel like you need to gain a little bit more knowledge and understanding, and interacting with a whole range of senior people is always something that's of value as you are thinking about strategic roles. And it also increases your visibility and credibility inside and outside your organisation. Basically because people get to know what you're doing, because we want you to engage with people across your organisations. So that's why you do these programs. The other thing with the people program is it's the only program that's not is a professional development from a university-based perspective in this particular area. We do intend to evolve and add different other programs as well. So there's a pathway of development for people in this space, but we're just in the process of doing that. Oh, oops. Okay, as I said, balanced academic and practical content. The thing we do focus on, we're doing that quite a lot this year, is trying to work with you right up front with your organisations to understand what is the ROI. You'll get return on learning, and that's a lot about you practicing and applying the sort of the new skills and knowledge that you gain from the program. But we're also seeking to understand, okay, how can you express this? How can you build a business case for actually doing this program, and what is it that your organisation will get from it as well? When you join these programs, you actually get access to a whole ecosystem of people, knowledge, different kinds of things that are going on at the university, which is an ongoing relationship. And so it's not just do a program, do a course, and you know we'll never see you again. There are many opportunities. I mean, you could, if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine as well. But and we won't harass you, of course. But you do get to come and do different sorts of things. And when people start flying around again, we'll have, you know, sort of events that you can come to. A big thing is the mentoring and coaching that we do, that advisory groups do. And in fact, our members online today will talk a bit about that. And again, the network. So speaking of which, the advisory group members, and I noticed that there's a couple of mistakes in here, but we have quite an extensive advisory group working with us on this program and with the others. The reason why we have advisory group members is to make sure that we are constantly updating, that the material is relevant, the way that we're teaching things is relevant. I'm incredibly thankful and appreciative of our advisory group members, because they spend an awful lot of time with us and with you if you do this program. They will be your mentors, so you will be allocated a mentor. They will come and listen to your projects and make sure that you're, you know, sort of working effectively in this space. They'll come and talk to you about their various things that are keeping them up at night, and the kinds of learnings that they've had and innovations that they've set, and facilitate discussions with you. So we have, and you'll see it, the group, in fact, both these photographs were taken at last year's presentation of projects at the end of the program. And so you better, you know, it's good to do work on your project, really, is the thing. You really don't want to be standing out front with this group of people sort of wondering what to say. So we do have you know, some fantastic people in our advisory group. And I'll introduce a couple in a minute. Okay, so module content. I've just put the sort of the real, you know, key things about these that we do in we're doing these modules this year. I don't have online my program director, who is Professor Bridget Carroll. She's actually now the Fletcher Chair of Leadership here at the University of Auckland, and is a stellar person whom you'll meet through this program. I'm getting her to actually do the introductory session, which is actually all about the kinds of leadership that you don't think is leadership, but everybody else benefits by. And we have a very strong sort of focus on hero leadership, I think, still in this country and maybe others, but her focus is actually what is it that you need to be doing as leaders across organisations that is often we don't think about, and that's a marvellous approach that she takes. We'll certainly give you a sort of an overview of the global and national economic outlook and be engaged in that, and what does that mean for your organisations and for the people within it. Of course, we're in a time in history which is particularly uncertain, and we were all, I'm sure, that as people come into the program, we'll do quite a bit of work on, okay, where are you coming from? What are the big issues that you're dealing with over the next 3 to 5 years, if you know? And we'll explore those as the program goes on. Different perspectives in organisation. Each module will be doing some work on projects, so you'll need to be presenting at each module about what's actually happening. And the key around the next thing in the module 1 is all about adaptive strategy. So some of you may have done work on strategy and been involved in strategy development, and I don't mean strategic planning, I mean strategy development and strategy execution in your organisations. But adaptive strategy is where the situation is particularly complex, and you need to think about strategy in a different kind of way. So that's module 1, which is a 2-day module, and that starts on the 29th of June, as you will have seen. Is there any questions about that? Any clarification needed? No, jolly good. Just let me know. Module 2 is really all about change and principles and practices. Again, Bridget has a specialisation in this particular area, and we'll be looking at various different case studies, some effective, some not so effective. And we'll look at companies like Spark, who have done some very significant, very impactive change processes, and how has that played out? What have they learned from it? What is, and particularly as it's an agile journey, how do they, you know, what is it they would do differently? What can we learn from their experience? And then there's an issue around, there is, in this space, dealing with what is the financial, the business case for people is still something that I don't think we do very well. You might disagree with me, but I think that we're not necessarily that great, even at the chief executive level. And I'd really like the advisory group members to talk a bit about this too, is how do we cost and understand the benefits of these intangible, potentially intangible activities that we do that is so important to people. So we do quite a bit of work on that, and in fact you'll see in module 3 that this tackles that issue as well as collaboration. Because in New Zealand, we're small, so we need to collaborate in order to make the most of our, whether it's products and services, supply chains, people, ideas, and we're not necessarily that good at that either. So we put quite a bit of focus. Bridget's area is collaborative leadership and collaboration as a particular issue. What is it that we learn? What is it that how do we collaborate? Is it different from cooperation? Is it different from co-opetition? All of those sorts of things. And it's really key to the kind of stuff that we do here. The other issue around that we look in module 3 is actually innovation. And needless to say, there's disruption, even though I think the robots are not necessarily going to take our jobs tomorrow. There may be some things that we have the opportunity to prepare for in the coming year or years, depending on your sector, that you really need to think through. And that's important to develop a people strategy. Okay, module 4 is where you present projects, and we do take that if there's, there may be confidentiality issues and what have you, we'll manage all of that. We'll also look at how we've learned through it. We'll do a review. How do we sort of apply our knowledge? How do we stick together? What is the engagement with alumni, and all of those sorts of things. But that the project presentations, of course, will be to the advisory group. I forgot to say that on module 1, we have a dinner on the 29th of June, which is the end of the first day, which is really basically all of the cohorts together with their advisory group members, and you can engage with them and have a good time meeting your peers and also advisory group members. Is there any questions about the content? I've given you a very once over lightly view of what that might be, but if there's some questions about it, just let me know. Nope, jolly good, excellent. We'll have, each day we'll have at least one, if not 2 or 3 guest speakers. Some of them could be international and beamed in. Others are actually here and work with us and facilitate with us. And before each module, you'll have 2 weeks beforehand, we'll give you pre-reading and anything that you might want to do. There are no assignments per se. There's no, you don't have to write screeds and screeds of words. The assessment, the way that we work is that you work on your project, and that is entirely designed by you. Actually, I thought that was the project one in a minute, but I'll go to that in a moment. The elements around these this program is that it's very experiential. You will get some people lecturing about their particular area, but essentially it's a smaller group. We're not sure, that might be up to 15 people who are basically will have a lot of conversation with each other about what is it that this information is telling us, what is it that we need to take into account in our own organisation. And of course, some things are more important in some organisations and some sectors than others. And then it'll be, what is important to me? What do I need to do to make changes to the way that I practice and work with others in my organisation? We have peer group coaching, so that you'll be working with 2 other people who could be a CIO or a supply chain person, depending on what the numbers are. You'll be working with those people on an ongoing basis through the program to coach each other on your particular issues that you're dealing with. There'll be mentoring, so you will be allocated a mentor, and we'll do that probably either before or on the first module, so that you work with someone like Susan or Mike, and it's not just about the project, it's about you personally as a leader, so that you'll be allocated. We'll try and make that work well. And there are various simulations and case studies that will be used through the program to highlight different areas and to make sure that we're delving deeply into the content. You will make presentations, so you'll practice that, and also you'll be part of, we'll bring you into being part of a LinkedIn group right up front, and you can engage with people across the cohort and eventually the alumni. In terms of people that have been part of guest speakers and some who are organised this year, I talked about Bridget Carroll, Rob McCulloch, who's a professor in economics who speaks a lot about economics in New Zealand. Ecology 6 and Katahi have done some very interesting and very, very different work in how to do organisational things and use, they've completely changed the way that they do performance management, thinking about how you, even role descriptions, how do you organise an organisation. We'll have Jolly Hodson, who's the CEO of Spark, talking about you know, what those changes have been. John Olsen is a good friend of ours and was VP of HR in Amazon some years ago. He's now made his home here in New Zealand and doing all sorts of things, interesting things in innovation. Dan Price, I don't know whether you know about Dan Price. He's the guy who basically, his bottom line salary is $70,000 and so he's created an organisation that functions again quite differently. Erica Lloyd, again, a good friend of ours, head of strategy for Soul Machines, and I don't know whether you know about Soul Machines, but Digital Humans are definitely here and will be coming to a door near yours very soon. Scott Bishop, who's Chief Innovation Officer of Z Electric, will be working with Rod McNaughton, one of our academics, on the innovation area, I think on the 3rd module. So that gives you a kind of a bit of a view of the sort of people that you will come across. And there'll be other board members and chief executives and what have you as well. No, stuck. There we go. Okay, the strategic project. Talked a bit about it, and I think I've talked to some of you about it as well. The key is that we don't give you a project, and it's not a hypothetical. It's something that your organisation wants you to work on that will be of benefit to both you and your organisation. So we'll help you to structure that, and there's a whole stack of people who can help to kind of get it into a space where it's something that will be really valuable both to you and your organisation, but it's up to you what that is. So as I said, we can help you, and we have lots of people you can talk to, but it could be a people strategy. I know some last year, half I think of the group did a people strategy because that was important to them. Other people did business cases on different kinds of initiatives. Some of them people, I mean, obviously had each initiative, even if it was technical, had a significant impact on people in a particular group. Could be a diagnostic for something that you've been doing. Has anybody got any questions and thoughts about projects, or any questions that you might want to ask about how to decide on a project?
I just have one question, if I may. Robin here from.
Yep. Sure.
Felicity, so if the project teams are 3 of you working on a project, does it have to be so you can work on your own project with your team of 3?
The team of 3 is separate. It's actually it's a peer group coaching thing. So the coaching, basically, we don't tell you what you have to talk about in the coaching session. It can be completely up to you. It could be about a project, could be about your organisation, but that's separate. The project is you. There are people who come into the programs or more from the same company, and we say to them to decide whether they might want to do the same project but just come from different perspectives and different disciplines. Other people, absolutely, almost most people do their own specific project.
Cheers.
No worries.
Yeah, Felicity, I was just going to ask about the project then. Is there any sort of constraints around the scope of the project at all?
Well, not really, actually. It's the thing is, because the program is relatively short, it's only 4 months or maybe 5 months long. A lot of projects are longer than that, so you could do something that will go past the end of the program. But what we want to do is to make sure that you're really clear with you and your manager and exec or whomever and us about what you're going to deliver at the end of the program. So you'll have decided that, sort of upfront. It can't be a project that you can do in 5 minutes on the last week of the program. I know that might surprise you, but if you do that, it's a really bad look, and Susan and Mike and others will be very grumpy, as well as your managers. So we do, it's a strategic project. So that means that we require you to do a bit of some research. It could be research within the organisation, could be research, academic research, could be sort of research in other organisations. It also means that you need to connect it, see where it fits within corporate strategy. So most of your companies, although there are some people who've been to the program who haven't actually had a corporate strategy, but they certainly had conversations about that. And it makes you working across your organisation. So it requires you to work with different other people in your organisation, potentially outside your organisation. It could be suppliers or stakeholders of some kind. Sometimes it is difficult. People come up with huge projects and we do need to narrow them down a bit because it's, but you could do a business case for something. So does that answer the question?
Yep, that's good to know. Yep, thank you.
Cool. So there's a lot of latitude. Mike or Susan, do you have any feedback from your experience of working with people on projects? No?
I was just being polite and waiting to see if Mike wanted to speak first. We were both doing the same thing. I couldn't see your face. It can be anything you want it to be. I think it will be different depending on the context of your role in your organization. And there may be things that the organization, particularly if they are sponsoring you to complete it, that they are interested in seeing be part of the project and linked to potentially a return on investment. But from the program's perspective, it can be anything you want it to be. But I think my advice from my experience working with other program participants would be having something that you can anchor back to your organization's strategy and that you can ring fence, i.e. it's not infinite in terms of what it could be, are probably two of the things I would encourage anyone to be mindful of.
Yeah, that's my thoughts too, and just it's such a great opportunity. The people that you will have on the cohort and have access to, plate for you. So the ability to do something a little bit differently, or maybe with more inputs that you would have otherwise had there, and that could be not necessarily getting a project complete. Could be really setting incredible foundations for something, and you might find that as you get into it that you adapt your project, but that's a good thing too. So I wouldn't get too worried about it. I just think it's a great opportunity, and you might find that through the conversations and people you're interacting with that you completely change. I know I have.
Yes, and we've had quite a bit of that. This particular program has the opportunity for people to experiment and explore. And I actually, I really think that after last year, in the kind of context that we're all in, I just think, take the opportunity to do some experiments, and we can help you with that. Like, we've got stacks of people who can help you. I mean, seriously, if you want to know, we can help you with project management if you like, but my suggestion is, let's really, let's go for it. Let's see what's possible. I mean, the thing that, keeps the advisory group and I talking quite a lot is that we're really not, it's very easy in New Zealand to kind of think about, we're a long way from everywhere. And we're kind of, to a certain extent, coddled. And I know that seems ridiculous to some of us, but I just don't see us, really coming to grips with, the changes that are potentially likely to happen over the coming, sort of few years. And I know that we've made a lot of changes in the last year, of course. But I just think, take the opportunity to really think this through. What are those things that are going to really challenge your organization? And we've got people who can help you, even if they're not, you know, it could be people within the university or other people that we know have done this kind of work. So thank you. Thank you to both of you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to now switch to Susan and Mike to have a little chat about why do you do what you do? Why are you so supportive and spend your time, your very, very treasured time actually working with us in the university on this program and thinking about the development of capability in New Zealand? So how about we just start with that? And Susan, I'll go back to you as well, because you've got, I mean, you've been doing a whole heap of things, both with the HRINZ and ARI and a whole range of different arrangements. You're an inveterate learner and you spend quite a lot of time, you know, sort of supporting us to do our stuff. So Susan, tell us about you and the learning process.
So kia ora everyone, I'm Susan, I'm the People and Culture Director for what is now Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners here in New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. So for those of you that don't see the Australian news, probably, I don't know that it's made the news here in New Zealand, we have been bought out as an organisation by the Europeans. So that's our new business name. But essentially means I look after all things people and culture for New Zealand and the Pacific Islands for the bottler that makes most famously Coca-Cola amongst a whole bunch of other beverages. So why am I on the advisory group for this program? I guess linked to what Felicity outlined, I'm a huge advocate for people continuing to invest in themselves and for me and the opportunity to continue to network and learn, to share my learnings and experience, but also hugely passionate about the role that I guess is significantly critical and important to be done well in the space of people and strategically what we do with people within organizations. And so I think this is a fabulous program and one that I think really supports, to Felicity's point, not just HR professionals, but any leader that's involved in strategically thinking about organizations and their approach to people within organizations. So I love being part of this program. I love the opportunity that I get to learn from people as part of particularly the mentorship arrangement. Yeah.
Thanks, Susan. And Mike, you've been as I said to you, we're on one of the first programs, so you've been around for a while.
Yeah, I haven't yet got my name on any of the building yet, but hey, one of these days. Nice to meet everyone. It's so weird, and I'm not trying to put any pressure on anyone, but I've got my thing on gallery view and I'm just staring at all these names but no faces. But I hope that we're giving you guys what you want to hear, and definitely really happy to just answer ad hoc questions and chat and stuff like that. I mean, this is a big decisions, and it's nice to make sure that you're making good ones. I did the course, I think it was it must have been about 2015 or I think something. Yeah. And the reason I did the course was, sorry, I should introduce myself too. So I'm the Chief of People at People and Culture at eRoad. eRoad is a NZX and ASX listed business that's in the IoT space. I've got sort of quite a big background now in tech and growth companies. That's my bag. I was at Spark. I was the GM of HR for the agile transformation there. And I also have a small portfolio of other high growth businesses that I support beyond my day job, just because I love the space. So I did the course when I was in another software business, really looking to grow my own career. I think of HR as having you know, in sort of a growth journey, you've got this initial, probably you can all relate to this, initial phase when you've got junior people who've maybe learned the critical knowledge there is to know about the law and, you know, policies and that kind of stuff. And they go through this really difficult, what I call the hardest part of your HR career, of building your confidence to be someone who can actually give advice to people who are quite often more experienced, maybe older than you, and you're there to partner with them. You've got the knowledge, you don't have the confidence. So when I did this course, part of it was actually, you know, feeling well educated and well aware of lots of things, but wanting to build my confidence to take on that chief people officer role or GMHR sort of level role, building my network, and just solidifying some of the things that I already knew enough to be dangerous, and make sure that I actually felt comfortable going and sitting at that top table, sitting in front of a board, sitting with an exec team at, you know, pretty grunty companies. And that was kind of my driving reason for doing it. Why I remain involved is because, you know, I love the kind of idea of passing on what I've got, and much to Susan's point, actually I get things out of it too, and I learn a lot as well. So to me, it's just really incredible to be part of what I see as one of the key enablers of New Zealand's growth, is building incredible cultures and incredible workplaces. I think it's something that we've underinvested in, but right now we're so beautifully poised to be the best in the world at this, because we don't have all the other complications that everybody else has got. So a really exciting time to be doing it. I think this is a great investment in you, if you're ready for it, if this is what you want to do. And this is probably one of the because you can actually get together and build your network, the best pieces of education and self-investment you can do for yourself in your HR career at the moment. So I strongly endorse it, as long as that's where you're up to in your career.
Thanks a lot, Mark. I really appreciate you both. And, you know, I know that you're saying basically what other advisory group members would say, which is just a delight to work with. And I know that all of you care a lot about, and that idea that, you know, this is people, like, you know, people can rabbit on about money and technology and all that kind of stuff, but it's the people who do use the stuff. Never fails to amaze me, sort of, you know, and how that's in COVID times, how we've seen chief executives and exec teams and leaders either doing that really well or not, as the case may be, has been very, you know, very interesting. I also, I'd be really interested to know, just from both of you and anyone else on the call, just how, what are the issues that you really are dealing with? Like, you can see coming down the track. What is it that you really, you know that you need to plan for, that you're kind of worried about, and that you actually want to, you know, explore over the next year or so?
I think one of the first things I'd reference as it relates to, you know, any learning that involves you having the opportunity to pause, take stock, get yourself out of the weeds, and look, you know, kind of out to the future, you know, is a fantastic opportunity. But I think the content of the program for me really aligns nicely. I think you referenced it before, Felicity. We're in such a period of uncertainty, and in fact, the only thing that is certain is the change that is going to be coming at all organisations in the coming years, whether they be as a result of how the world at different paces recovers from COVID, and what that means for your organization, depending on, you know, the markets that you interact with, and all of those kind of things, as well as potentially the experience our people have had during COVID and the New Zealand response, and what that has then caused them to think about in terms of what's important to them around how they do want to continue to engage with their organisation and their employer. That's a challenge that we're going to have to grapple with and determine the right response moving forward. And I think the program really lends itself to thinking about those opportunities and taking the time to really be purposeful, and think about what's right for your business, what's right for your people. So that's probably one of the things that immediately pops to my mind. Don't know about you, Mike?
Yeah, that's top of mind for the CEOs and board members that I talk to. So it's there's this sort of thing that's been bandied around a lot, but who's driving your digital adoption strategy? Is it your CIO or your CTO? No, it's COVID-19, and that's across the globe. I think we're actually, because it's so it's not a factor here, we're bouncing ahead of the rest of the world in terms of learnings about how what the new normal really looks like. And a lot of the stuff that I've talked to other people in the industry, in our roles about is starting to play out in other locations just a little bit behind us. So we're actually kind of ahead of the curve on that, but still a long way to go. There are concerns at a CEO level around productivity. Are we back at the right place? Was that initial pickup just a temporary blip, and actually we've fallen back and we've got some different shifts? Or are we in a good spot? How do we grow cultures when we are not seeing each other as much? All that kind of stuff. I think that's definitely a big part of it. And then you've got your usual things, right? So speed of change, prioritization, global competitiveness just increasing, all that kind of good stuff. Burnt out workforce. How do you make sure that your culture is the culture of choice in a competitive market? I'm in tech, so with the borders closed, bringing in new tech talent's not happening. So how are we growing our own skills quickly? But equally wanting to be the place where everyone wants to go, because it's pretty competitive. So all those usual things. This stuff's, a lot of it's not new, but being confident and comfortable to sit at that top table and place bets, about how we are going to tackle it, and that kind of business case sort of thing. But actually, even beyond business case, just kind of pulling the right levers for your organization. That's, to me, that's stuff that you don't do very well in isolation. You do it by bouncing it and having soundboard and other people to learn off, which is what you get when you come into something like this.
But thanks, guys. It's really great. The opportunity to actually think. I think almost everybody who does this kind of program, particularly this one, I think, says just it is such a great thing to be able to get out of the weeds, as you said, Susan, and to be able to think through together. What is it? What does this mean? Like, what does this new, when, say, a session on digital humans, which I don't know whether you've seen Soul Machines, sort of in action, but what does that mean? Is that likely to be like, we all going to get out of a job, or is it a good thing for us? Just those questioning the assumptions that we might have about how people and organisations actually function, and we've had a lot of sort of querying that of late. But and I know some of you are in companies that have actually had sort of really difficult circumstances. I know Bruce Borthwick, you're from Airways Corporation has sort of had a massive sort of decrease in, like, basically hasn't been any airlines flying, so you haven't had any money coming in, haven't had anything like that. So it's very interesting to find, to think about people. What happens then? Like, do you just cut people, or do you think about it differently? And I know that, you've had to deal with those sorts of things in your organisation. Petula, sort of, are you there, Petula? Or are you actually off somewhere? This is what I do on videos.
No, I'm actually here.
So you know. So Petula is from Moana. So, the current situation with trying to get product out of the country or into the country has been absolutely dire. So how's your company going, Petula?
Well, I think we've been able to respond to the challenges, but it's every day changing. And I think what that's done is built a resilience that we didn't have before, and I think that has been really powerful.
Interesting. Yeah, that whole issue of resilience we'll be talking about as well. Anything just in terms of getting the best out of mentors? I know that both Susan and Michael, we've talked about this quite a lot, but Susan, you had some very, very good advice for people about, using the mentor well. Would you like to just talk a little bit about that while we're on screen here?
Yeah, sure. Oh, look, I think it's definitely one of the benefits of choosing this program versus maybe another investment in your development is the mentors. And I say this about my peers rather than necessarily about myself. But there's an outstanding set of people that are putting themselves forward to support not just the development experience for the program, but you and your personal and professional development. And I guess my tip would be grab that with both hands and suck them dry, for want of a better turn of phrase. I think often people get a little cautious and say, oh, but my mentor, they're really busy, they've got lots on, they've got a big job, and they don't want to take up too much of your time. But I know certainly for myself and I think for Mike as well, we're happy to give the time. In fact, we want to give the time, otherwise we wouldn't be signing up for it. So, but the mentor, the mentee has to drive the relationship. I'm not going to impose myself on somebody. So, one of the first conversations I always have is, what do you want from me? How can I best support you? And what would you like it to look like? And I'll give as much or as little as the individual wants. So my advice would be, think about what good looks like for you and be selfish and ask for it, because I can absolutely guarantee that they'll be more than happy to give it to you. But don't worry about whether or not that's too much time, because I certainly wouldn't be signing up if I wasn't prepared to make that commitment. So, and I think I'd say the same. I don't know about Mike, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things, it's the mechanic's car, isn't it? That we are the ones who are sitting there looking after other people and helping them and making sure they've got support, but very rarely do we properly invest it in ourselves. I mean, Susan's a great learner, and I think there are exceptions to that, but this is about you and having people you can pull on, maybe people from quite different walks of life or experiences from your normal circles, to be able to leverage. Definitely an opportunity that you'd be wise to take up. And like Susan said, we're here. I mean, we're doing it because we believe in the outcomes of the program and building, incredible talent across the country. So we want to give you everything. It's there for the taking.
Yes, I have discovered that some people don't really, they feel like they haven't done enough work on their project, so they stop talking to their mentor. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Yes, I wouldn't say suck them dry, but really, but you take the opportunity to sort of, it's such a rare opportunity to have somebody who's there for you and wants to share their expertise and just incredible experiences. So that's a really good thing. Okay, so what would be very interesting is if this actually, as Mike wondered, has this given you what you need? And if not, do you have a question that could be, that you'd like to ask? Darren.
Yeah, it's been good to see the layouts of the modules, get an understanding of what potentially lies ahead. So that's been informative from my perspective. So thanks.
Fantastic, great. Yeah, It's quite a bit more in there, but I didn't think going into detail around it was a really good idea. Anyway, great.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
good. It's Bruce here. Kia ora, everyone. Look, thanks for the session, and thanks to everybody for being on the call, and Susan and Mike and Felicity for giving your time. I think while I've been sitting here pondering about projects and so forth, so it's been really worthwhile doing that. So
Yeah,
thanks,
good.
guys. It's awesome.
Good. Awesome. Yeah. The next steps will be to, if you haven't yet talked about to your manager, talk to your manager about sponsorship. There is actually, yeah, there's, and we also have some thoughts about how to, you know, help pull the business case for actually doing it. I think that, you know, what Susan and Mike have said about people not feeling comfortable in the sort of, in some cases, not to put themselves forward. My experience is do it and we'll work out, you know, and we'll actually help you to make that case, because that's people who ask, they get it, funnily enough, you know. So if you want, please talk to me, just get in touch with me, and I'll help you in any way I can. If you want to talk to an alum, that's absolutely fine too, and we can help with identifying a project. So if there aren't any other questions, I shall allow you to go. And I really do appreciate you, Susan and Mark, for spending time with us and, you know, sort of assisting us with the amount of energy and vitality and experience that you have. It's a joy working with you. And we'll be working with all of you because you're all going to do the program.
If I can
Thanks,
underline
Sarah.
it, if I can underline it, just Felicity, for me, it's often, you know, HR people don't take this next step. It's so important. It's important for your organization that you are investing yourself and you're getting this extra capability so that you can be better. It will help you a lot to be effective in your organization, or help you in your future. The network in itself is basically worth the ticket price. But if you're not doing this, do something. Because what I hate is the thought of, you know, and I can see the majority of people on the call are female, you know, maybe thinking about it, but not wanting to put yourself forward. Don't be that person. Be the brave person who says, hey, I am going to do this. I'm going to invest in myself, and I'm going to, you know, get benefit from it. It's going to be good for my organization. You know, I'm not telling you have to do this, of course, but I'm telling you, please do something. Because
please do something.
You know, when you hear CEOs and boards, they want much more out of the New Zealand economy. They want to see great people and culture happening, and the skills aren't there yet, and we've got to develop it. So, you know, I'm really passionate about it. I'm really happy to talk to you about it. If it's not this course, if it's something else, but please make sure you do invest in yourself. I think that's it's so important.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, I would say the same thing. Actually, if you don't do this, just, you know, but get a plan. Get a plan. We do work with other people to do development plans, and then, you know, a lot of us don't do our own, and that's actually really critical. It's critical for New Zealand. So, okay, well, as I said, please get in touch with us, and thank you very much for taking the time to spend with us today. And for those of you who do choose to do the program, it'd be fabulous to see you. And if you need anything else from me, just let me know. And have a fantastic rest of the week, and it's nearly the weekend. Yes. Thanks very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thanks, Felicity.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks all.